Bill Henshaw here again, Constitutional Crisis Channel. And I'm just going to do a follow-up here because I make it a point, and I'm not ashamed to say it because I openly and notoriously use white supremacist arguments here. But the bottom line is that many of you people who don't have that same status can use a lot of these same arguments. They're there. It's just a matter of being able to do it with the proper status and standing. And that may be to allege that you're not a citizen of the United States either. And think about this. I mean, especially for blacks, how in the world can you be a citizen pursuant to an amendment in which you had no part in proposing, ratifying, or what have you? Where's the consent of the governed there? That's a hell of an argument. And if you get out from under that way, you can then go on, if you want to claim to be a member, of a sovereign African nation that's been brought over here involuntarily pursuant to all the slaves being brought over centuries ago. And you may have a heck of an argument there, too, in terms of what they can do to you and what they can't. So all these things, and by the way, these arguments could have been made and should have been made in place of all this civil rights BS that's going on for so many years. The main case for me is Brown versus Board of Education, but there's a lot of other ones where they just did the wrong thing. I mean, the Supreme Court made it up out of thin air. They know better than this. If that amendment doesn't exist, and most of the justices with the education they presumably have to know that, then what are they doing here? There would have been much more effective ways to take care of business without subjecting all of the states to federal, regional, martial law rule. Not just us south of the Mason-Dixon line. This is nationwide. And I'm sure the people that ratified that amendment, it never occurred to them. That's what they were doing. But that's because the Committee of 15 withheld information from them about what the real agenda was and is. Where is the consent of the governed? Next time you get out and make a deposit in your account, you might want to ask your banker to ask his boss in the corporate offices that same question. I'd love to hear the answer. That said, though, you can do quite a lot, even with a comparatively, quote-unquote, second-class status. Because if you go in there as a member of a sovereign, independent nation, and not as what they think we all are here, honest to God, undocumented enemy aliens is what they see when they look at all of us. That's the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. And you can barely imply that in 8 U.S.C. 1324A that talks about what you can and can't do, and you have to have their permission to engage in employment. And more to the point, you're not lawfully here if your presence in the United States is not authorized by federal law. What does that say about a state citizen who, in theory, has the protection of his state constitution from that kind of incursion? That maybe makes my case better for state versus territory than anything else I can think of, with the possible exception of the Electoral College, a subject matter for another day. But think about that, state versus territory. This is how we get home. I'm convinced of it, and I think I'm further down the road than anyone may ever have been in being able to achieve it, and I want to help you do the same thing. So please check in. You got my email address. I've got document packets you can use. Fairly simple, low risk, high gain.